Soweto residents marching, of course, to the Orlando police station to raise a number of concerns, centrally calling for action following the rape of a 7-year-old in Matatiele in the Eastern Cape. They're currently reading out their list of demands in Soweto. And of course, this is part of a host of other marches that we're seeing over the past couple of days. Let's listen in.
And employees, schools and other relevant parties will be required to access the registry to ensure the safety of children and communities. Regular public reporting on GBV progress. We demand regular public reports on GBV cases in progress, including the number of cases reported, investigated and closed, as well as arrest and conviction rates. SABC will provide monthly updates on GBV case progress, and failure to comply will result in public scrutiny and criticism. The role of communication platforms in justice. We demand that SABC optimize and properly utilize communication platforms like WhatsApp or for anonymous tips, case updates and victim support. WhatsApp channels dedicated to GBV cases reports will be established, and SABC will ensure that these channels are secure, confidential and easily accessible. Sensitivity and trauma training for all SABC officers. We demand immediate implementation of mandatory GBV trauma training for all SABC officers. Yes. In partnership with civil society organizations. The training will be addressed issues of such as LGBTQIA sensitivity, the challenges faced by survivors in rural areas, and the protection of children in GBV cases. Community policing forums must include women and survivors. We demand that women and GBV survivors are properly presented in community policing forums, CPFs, and are included in monthly dialogues on safety, protection, and SABC performance. CPFs will be required to provide regular updates on GBV cases and progresses, and SABC response to GBV cases. National SABC GBV hotline must be revamped. We demand an immediate review and improvement of SABC GBV toll-free hotlines, ensuring faster response time and comprehensive follow-up mechanism. The hotlines will be widely publicized, and SABC will ensure that they are easily accessible and user-friendly. Immediate release of the National Registry for Sexual Offenders. We demand the immediate release of the National Registry for Sexual Offenders to prevent further abuse and protect vulnerable individuals. The registry will be made publicly available, and employees, schools and other relevant parties will be required to access the registry to ensure the safety of children and communities. Consequences of non-compliance. Failure to respond or act on these demands within 14 working days will result in, number 1, intense mobilization and protest outside SABC headquarters and provincial offices. Number 2, widespread media coverage and public scrutiny of SABC handling of GBV cases. Number 3, collaboration with civil society organizations and community groups to amplify the demands and mobilize public support. We will not be silenced or ignored. We demand justice and accountability and action from SABC. We will mobilize, protect and advocate for the rights of GBV survivors and victims until our demands are met. And we will not rest until SABC is held accountable for their failures. Amandla! Amandla!
All right, so those are live visuals coming your way from Orlando in Soweto. You can see in frame their memorandum of demands that's been handed over to police at the Orlando police station, as several marchers gather once again to shine a spotlight on the scourge of gender-based violence, particularly the rape of minors in the country. The assault of a 7-year-old in the Eastern Cape, of course, taking center stage there in many ways. But yesterday, we also heard from police that 7 people have been arrested for sexual crimes against children in the country in just the last 7 days. A staggering figure once you think about it. On average, it means 1 person has been arrested per day for assaulting or raping a child in one way or the other. Those demands that you're seeing there include a gender-based violence training program that's made mandatory for all police across the country in order to sensitize them, of course, around how to handle such cases. The marchers and activists there are also asking for the release once again of the sexual offenders registry. This has been in the public domain for quite some time now. There had been a kind of a stop-start with the relevant departments in government around this process, with concerns from government side, of course, that this needs to be done in a way that it doesn't violate other laws, such as the Protection of Personal Information Act, complicating that process. That's certainly my very elementary understanding of that. In the demands, there's also a call for a widespread scrutiny of gender-based violence cases that are being handled by the SAPS. Of course, this is all in an effort to drive transparency and accountability when it comes to dealing with these cases. The signing of that particular memorandum is currently taking place there on your screens, as these marchers, of course, who moved from the Bara taxi rank to the Orlando police station, make their voices heard on this Tuesday morning. It comes, of course, after a number of other similar marches were held around the country, with many, of course, calling for a whole lot more to be done to deal with these kind of cases. And I imagine what's taking place on the streets of Soweto is going to feature in one way or the other at the National Policing Summit, which is set to get underway in Kempton Park sometime this morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa, in fact, will, of course, give us the keynote address as soon as that begins. We'll take you there live.